Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This evening's reciters are Naina Mataji for English translation and Usha Mataji for reading Sanskrit verses. They'll be reading from Canto 3, Chapter 27, verse 16 to 30. Usha Mataji, would you like to start with the invocation 3 times, please? Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam, everyone. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 16. एवं प्रत्यवमृष्यासव आत्मानं प्रतिपद्यते स अहङ्कारस्य द्रव्यस्य यो अवस्थानम् अनुग्रहः.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Text 16 translation. When, by mature understanding, one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him.
Text 17. देवहूतिरुवाच पुरुषं प्रकृतिर्ब्रह्मन् विमुच्यते कर्हिचित् अन्योन्यपपाश्रयत्वात् अन्योन्यपाश्रयत्वाच्च नित्यत्यावादनयोः प्रभो.
Sri Devahuti inquired, My dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is their separation possible?
यथा गन्धस्य भूमेश्च न भावो व्यतिरेकतः अपां रसस्य च यथा तथा बुद्धेः परस्य च.
As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma, or of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness.
आकर्तुः कर्मबन्धनोऽयं पुरुषस्य यदाश्रयः गुणेषु सत्सु प्रकृतेः कैवल्यं ते स्वतः कथम्.
Hence, even though he is the passive performer of all activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him and binds him?
क्वचित्तत्त्वावमर्शेन निवृत्तं भयम् उल्बणम् अनिवृत्तनिमित्तत्वात् पुनः प्रतिवतिष्ठते.
Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again, since its course has not ceased.
श्रीभगवानुवाच अनिमित्तनिमित्तेन स्वधर्मेणानलात्मना त्रितीव्रया मयि भक्त्या च श्रुतसम्भृतया चिरम्.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction. and one will be freed from the contamination of matter.
ज्ञानेन दृष्टतत्त्वेन वैराग्येण बलीयसा तपोयुक्तेन योगेन तीव्रेणात्मसमाधिना.
This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption.
प्रकृतिः पुरुषस्येह दह्यमानत्वमहर्निशम् तिरो भवेत्रिसनकेर अज्ञेरयोनिरवारिणिः.
The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it.
भुक्तभोगा परित्यक्ता दृष्टदोषा च नित्यसः नैश्वरस्याशुभं दत्ते स्वे महिम्नि स्थितस्य च.
By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory.
यथा हि प्रतिबुद्धस्य प्रस्वापो बहननर्थभूत् स एव प्रतिबुद्धस्य न वै मोहाय कल्पते.
In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered, and one sees many inauspicious things. But when he is awakened and fully conscious, such auspiciousness things, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder him.
एवं विदितत्वस्य प्रकृतिर्मयि मानसं युञ्जतो नापकुरुत आत्मरामस्य कर्हिचित्.
The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
यदेवम् अध्यात्मरतः कालेन बहुजन्मना सर्वत्र चातवैराग्य आब्रह्म भुवनान्मुनिः.
When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness.
मद्भक्तः प्रतिबुद्धार्थो मत्प्रसादेन भूयसा निःश्रेयसं स्वसंस्थानं केवलाख्यं मदाश्रयम्. प्राप्तोतिहार्जसा धीरः स्वदृसाक्षैर्न संशयः यतत्वा न निवर्तेत योगी लिङ्गं द्विनिर्गमे.  . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . .
My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited, causeless mercy. And thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back.
यदा न योगपचता सचेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसञ्जतेऽङ्गः अनन्यहेतुस्वतमे गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तकीर्यात् न मृत्युहासः.
When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. Hare Krishna. Please
Hare
forgive my
Krishna,
mistakes.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Please forgive me by mistake. Pronunciation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Usha Mataji and Naina Mataji. So beautiful recitations. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, dear devotees, for kindly joining this evening to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and also giving this opportunity to speak a few words on Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, before we enter into Srimad Bhagavatam, we shall offer Mangalas and prayers and then enter into Bhagavatam. Om अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांशं श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांशम्। हे कृष्ण करुणसिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिविकासस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणि। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृणुतं स्वकथाः कृष्णः पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृद्यन्तस्त्वह्य भद्राणि विदुनोति सुकृसतां नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी एते चांशकलाः पुंसः कृष्णस्तु भगवान् स्वयम् इन्द्रारिव्याकुलं लोकं मृडयन्ति युगे युगे इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्मसंहितम् उत्तमश्लोकचरितं चकार भगवान् ऋषिः निःश्रेयसाय लोकधन्यं स्वस्तये नमः कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह खलु न श्रुषामेषा पुराणार्कोऽधिनोदितः कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्ग्रये अति विश्वेश विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्तिस्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशम् इमं चिन्तिदृढं पाण्डुषुरुष्णुषु त्वयिमेनन्यविषयमतिर्मदपति असकृत् रतिमुद्वाहदधगङ्ग्यवघुमुदन्वति श्रीकृष्ण कृष्ण सकवृष्ण वृषभावनिद्रग्राजन्यवंशदहनानापवर्गवीर्य गोविन्द गोद्विजसुराट्यहरावतार योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते तुलयामलवेनापि न स्वर्गं न पुनर्भवं भगवत्सङ्गे सङ्गस्य मर्त्यानं किमुताशिषः पुनश्च भूयाद् भगवत्यनन्ते रतिः प्रसङ्गर्ष तदाश्रयेषु महस्तु यामुपयामि सृष्टिं मैत्रसु सर्वत्र नमो द्विजेभ्यः ॐ नमो भगवते राधा गोविन्दाय नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गौरद्विषे नमः मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरं श्रीचैतन्यप्रभुं वन्दे बालोऽपि यदनुग्रहात् तरेणानमतग्राह व्याप्तं सिद्धान्तसागरम् श्रीचैतन्यप्रभुं वन्दे यत्पादाश्रयपीडितः सङ्गृह्णाति आकर्वातात् अज्ञः सिद्धान्तसन्मनीम् ॐ नमो भगवते राधा गोविन्दाय नमः Hare Krishna. Thank you for kindly waiting. I shall share my screen. Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the third canto, chapter 27. It is understanding material nature. Okay, so it is a very beautiful chapter again, one of the jewels. So here in this chapter, there are two aspects. In fact, in between two aspects, there are questions. The first aspect is Kapil Bhagavan describes about the material nature, about the body, temporary body, and about the living entity. He come in contact with the nature, but understanding that he is not the body, he is spirit soul, and then keeping himself aloof from all the materialistic attachments, raga dveshas, vitaraga bhayakrodha manmayamam upashritaha bahodjnana tapasa puta madbhavam agataha. So in such a way, keep aloof from the raga and dvesha, and then one has to be free. So he establishes those statements. And then later on, Devhuti Mata, that is first aspect. And then Devhuti Mata asks a few questions. How can a living entity be freed by the material nature at any time? And just like the earth has got the smell, the tanmatra, and water has got the taste, and the fire has got a form. How can these will be separated from the material elements? How can tanmatras be separated from the material ingredients? So likewise, how can the material nature would relieve the soul from its clutches, or how can soul get free from the material nature? So these questions are very intelligent. And then later on, Kapil Bhagavan describes, so one has to follow devotional service and then hear Krishna Katha for a very long time. Then gradually he will be relieved from the material nature. So the way he gives an analogy that one of the analogy is from the wooden sticks, by rubbing of these wooden sticks, the fire emanates, and then the fire, whenever this fire is so powerful, then it will burn the wooden sticks itself. Likewise, through the Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, by serious and sincere devotional service, one can free himself from the clutches of material elements, that is Bhinna Prakriti, 5 material elements plus the subtle body as well. Okay, likewise, and once he is relieved, and then once he will go back to the Godhead, and then he doesn't have to come back to this material world. Okay, so for this one, that is the second aspect. First aspect is about the material nature, and the second aspect is about the devotional service. And in between, the questions by Devahuti Mata. It is a small chapter, and before this one, so Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he speaks about the material nature and the Purusha, Prakriti and Purusha. They both are eternal. Prakriti and Purusha, they both are eternal. So just going to, before we enter into Srimad Bhagwatam, here Krishna speaks, it is the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhi Anadi Ubhau Api Ubhau Anadi Vidhi Anadi. They both are eternal. You must know that. Anadi without beginning. Anadi Ubhau Api. They both are. Vikaramsha Gunamshaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Vikaramsha Gunamshaiva. So here, material nature and living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and modes of material nature are products of material nature. So this is Tejovari Mridam Yada Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrusha. The interactions are transformations. Vikaramsha. Ketat Chetram Samasena Savikaram Budahuratam. Vikaram. This vikara, whenever the living entity come in contact with the material nature, the vikaras would take place. All the time, within the body, as long as the living entity comes into this body, and the body is keep on, every moment it keep on changing. Even though after the person dies, even the body will start decomposing. So that interactions always taking place. But the living entity is separate, it is eternal. At the same time, Prakriti is also eternal. And further Krishna says that Karya Karana Katritve Hetuhu Prakriti Ruchyate Purushaha Sukha Dukkanam Bhoktritve Hetu Ruchyate. And Karya Karana Katritve Hetuhu Prakriti Ruchyate. So material nature arranges all facilities for the living entity. Karya Karana Katritve Hetuhu Prakriti Ruchyate. This is Prakritehe Karmani Gunehe Karmani Sarvashaha. The material nature arranges everything for the living entity. Purushaha Sukudukkanam, the living entity, the soul, for the pains and pleasures, Bhoktritve, he experiences in the enjoyment, Bhoktritve, Hetur Uchyate. So he is the enjoyer, material nature accommodates all facilities. So nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments. Okay. And then further, Krishna further says, Purushaha Prakritistopi Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunam Karanam Gunasangasya Sad Asad Joni Janmasu. So Purushaha Prakritistopi, the living entity come into the material nature, into the Prakriti, Bhunkte, and then he enjoys. Prakriti Jan Gunan and produced by the material nature. He is the enjoyer. And Karanam Guna Sangosya. But whenever he come in contact with the material nature, either he will take birth in the Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu in different kinds of species according to his enjoyment. That enjoyment is the again based on his consciousness. So the living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. And here, whenever living entity is going through all these things, the Lord always witnessing those activities. Upadrashtanumantacha, upadrashtanumantacha, Anumanta Bhatta Bhokta Maheshwaraha Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Purushaha Para. When living entity is going through these pains and pleasures, when he is put up into this material nature, at the same time, the Lord, in the form of super soul, he is witnessing every activity of the individual soul. Okay, that is living entity, Prakriti, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so this is just a few glimpses of information from Bhagavad Gita before we enter into Srimad Bhagwatam here, in the 27th chapter, understanding the material nature. So because the Kapil Bhagwan is going to repeat the same in a little bit elaborated way. Shri Bhagavan Vacham. So here, living entity, he come into the material nature. Though he is eternal, he is not affected, but material nature arranges all kinds of facilities. But he is above the material nature. So that is Prakristopi Purusho Najjate Prakrute Gunaihi Avikarat Akatritvat Nirgunatvat Jalarkavat. So he is the Prakriti Stopi Purusho. He is kept in the Prakriti. Na Ajyate Prakrute Gnaihi. So na Ajyate is not affected by material nature. So Prakritehi and Gunaihi. Avikarat Akatvat. Avikarat. He from being without change. Akatritvat by freedom from the proprietorship. Nirgunatvat Jalarkavat. From being unaffected by the qualities of material nature. Jalarkavat. It is like the sun, he is reflecting on the water. The waves are at the water, we think that the sun is moving, but actually sun is situated in the sky. Likewise, living entity is not affected by the material nature. Only material nature is, there are changes in the bodies and all those things, but living entity is not affected by that. Okay, likewise, Kapil Bhagwan started speaking. Okay, so, and then further, he describes about Sayesha yadhi prakrutehe guneshu abhivishajyate aham kriya vimudatma kattasmiti abhimanyate. So whenever he is in the material nature, he thinks, he just only feels that he is the doer, he is experiencing those pains and pleasures. That is in the moha. Ahankara vimudatma kattasmiti abhimanyate. Likewise, abhimanyate. He thinks, but actually he is not affected by that. But this is just by sometimes we might be hearing from the news like this person is fear dead. So just by the fear, he is dead. So when he understands that he would not be affected by any of this material nature, then there is nothing to fear about it. But again, it is because we are in contact with the material nature, it happens. So that's why whenever in a spontaneous situations, we must be understanding. But we may be affected because we may be spontaneously just getting fear, something like that. But actually, he is not. In a normal situations, he must be like, okay, I'm not the body. Likewise, that comes with by the cultivating the knowledge. So sayesharihi prakrutehi guneshu abhivishadyate aham kriya vimudatma kattasmiti abhimanyate. Okay, that is just by the influence of false ego. He thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. That is soul under the spell of material nature and false ego. Identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities. Okay, and then further what happens to this living entity? So here, by association, तेन संसार पदवीं अवशोभ्येति अनिवृत्तः प्रासंगिकैः कर्मदोषैः. This is prasangikaihi karma doshaihi. When he is coming by prasanga, resulting from association with the material nature, karma doshaihi, by faulty actions, sad asad mishra yonishu, he will take birth in the either in the living entities in the mode of ignorance, or living entities in the mode of passion, or living entities in the mode of goodness. He will take birth among those species. Sad asadra mishra yonishu, by his faulty actions, karma doshaihi. This is ten samsara padivin avashobhyeti anivruttaha. So the conditioned soul therefore transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work. So that's why all our scriptures, Swadharma has to be performed properly, righteously, according to his constitutional position. Okay, and then further move on to the next shloka. Here, Kapila Bhagavan is mentioning why he comes into this material nature. So, because he wanted to lord it over material nature. Lord it over material nature. I wanted to show there is no greater than me. I wanted to dominate. Likewise, this is the nature. One is the desire, and another one is the enviousness. So, addaihi avidhyamanepi samsitirna nivartate jayato vishyanasya swapni anadhagamu yatha. So, here, addaihi. So, real cause is certainly avidhyamane, not existing, api, although here we shall just read the translation here. Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material existence, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease because he wanted to keep on enjoying it. It is not ceasing yet. And just as in a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. So there, Maitreya Muni in the previous chapters, yadattena vinamushya pumsatma vipareha pratiyat upadrashtuhu swasthirascheda nadikaha. So a living entity, he thinks that he sees himself that he is cutting his head, but in reality that does not happen. Swasthirascheda nadikaha. He is cutting his head and seeing himself, just keeping it in hand and then looking into the mirror. Am I the same person? Something like that. Yadattena vinamusha pumsatma vipareha. All of his actions and questions are like this in this material world. But actually, that happens only in the dream. Likewise, this material existence, it is kind of a swapna. Avidya, rachita swapna, anad the idam vish मन्यमान इदं विश्वं माया रचितमात्मनि अविद्या रचित स्वप्न अनदगापमु अविद्या रचित स्वप्न गंधर्व नगरोपमम. It is the phantasmagoria, Gandharva Nagara. It is this material world. Within this dream, many people do so many things. They think that they are permanent and fighting each other. Mito lignanti bhotani bhavayanti chayanmitaha. Sometimes they fight among themselves, sometimes they make friendship each other. So this is everything under the influence of the material nature. Okay, so as long as they are in that condition, this material existence always exists. They have to take another body, another body, another body. Just as in a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. So, and then how this can be controlled? Kapil Bhagwan says, by the devotional service, very serious devotional service. Atayeva Shanishittam Prasaktam Atatam Asatam Pati Bhakti Yogena Tivrena Viratyacha Nayedvasham. This comes, one is the Vaira, Viraktya, Bhakti, and also knowledge, Jnana Vairagya Bhakti. But that Bhakti should be very serious devotional service. Atayeva Shanishittam, Senehi, gradually. The Chittam is the consciousness, mind and consciousness. Prasaktam Asatam Pati. So here it is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment. But in very serious devotional service with a detachment, he can be freed. He can be freed. So thus his mind and consciousness will be under full control. Then he will be able to control his senses. So this is called sometimes Dasa and Swami. So, Swami means who has conquered his senses. They are called Goswami or Swamis. And Dasa means who is a servant. If he is a servant of his senses, he is Godas. And if he is a master, Goswami. Then likewise, here Kapil Bhagwan is saying, one has to control his senses, master his senses, and master the mind. How it is to be done? So further he says, Yamadibihi Yogapadihi Abhyasan Sraddhayanvitaha. Yama Adibihi, beginning with Yama, controlling process, limited process, limiting the sense gratification. Yamadibihi Yogapadihi, by the yoga system, Abhyasan Sraddhayanvitaha, and practicing with great faith. Shraddhayanvitaha, Mai Bhavena Satyena, Mat Kata Shravanena cha. So here again, when he is performing, trying to control the senses, that path should be Mai Bhavena Satyena, in Krishna consciousness, with love and devotion. Mai, unto me, Kapil Bhagavan says, unto me. Mai Bhavena Satyena, Mat Kata Shravanena cha, by hearing my pastimes. So this is the beauty. When he is try to control, there is no other alternative, only to hear Krishna Katha only. So here one has to become faithful by practicing the controlling senses of yoga system, and must elevate himself to perform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. So here this chanting and hearing, it must keep on going on in all kinds of stages. So there Kapil Bhagwan further in detail he describes Suchodese Pratistapya Vijidasanasanam. Tasmin swasti samasena rujakayaha samabhyaset. This is as part of the yoga. He sits in a proper posture, in a secluded place, in a clean place. Suchodese pratishtapya. Vijitasana asanam, in a proper posture. And then tasmin swasti samasena, keeping his body straight perpendicular to the earth. Tasmin swasti samasena rujakayaha samabhyaset. He practices yoga. And so this jnanam ekadese manasa pranadharanam vaikuntalela abhidhyanam samadhanam tatatmanaha. Again, vaikuntalela abhidhyanam, remembering the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and contemplating on the Vaikunta's pastimes as well. Okay, so beautiful things to remember. Even though when he is engaging in the samadhi, when we are chanting as well, we remember all the pastimes of the Lord. All the pastimes. So there, Nana Lata Kenam Vaikuntam Vyapakam Smaret. One has to remember when chanting Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, describing that he mentioned when we are chanting, so we focus on the sounds, at the same time, we also remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pastimes. That is Vaikuntha Abhidhanam Samadhanam Tadatmanah. These are all part of Yoga Pataihi. This is Yoga Pataihi. And then Pranasya Sodayen Margam Purakumbakare Chakaihi Pratipulena Vachittam Yatahtiram Achanchalam. Again, this is different stages of yoga. Pratipulena Vachittam. So this is Pranasya Sodayen Margam Purakumbakare Chakaihi. Okay, by that, they will control the breathing exercises. And then in such a way, such a state, one focuses and Swanasagra Avalokanaha, and keeping the both eyes focus on the tip of the nose, not closing the eyes completely or not opening completely. So focusing on the tip, Swanasagra Avalokanaha. Then he meditates. There are few activities. Pranayama dahe doshan dharana bishakil bishan pratyaharena samsargan dhyanena anishwaran gunan. So these are different 4 stages. What happens by the pranayama? Pranayama dahe doshan dharana bishakil bishan. Dharana is keep on repeating the same process. And then further, Kapila Bhagavan describes that Sarvabhut Samatpena Nirvairena Aprasangataha. And one must be equipoised with all the living entities. Sarvabhuta Samatpena Nirvairena Aprasangataha. And without intimate connections. Brahmacharyena Maunena. By following the celibacy and by the silence. Brahmacharyena Maunena Swadharmena Baliyasa. And following his rules, his personal duty or one's occupation. Baliyasa, by offering the result unto the Supreme Lord. Okay, this is by executing devotional service, one has to see every living entity equally without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections with anyone or them. So here, sometimes, okay, we should not envy anyone, that is all right. But what about the attachment? Can I love the living entities? There also, one should be equipoised. And without nirvairena aprasangataha, without intimate connections as well. No enviousness, that is called vitaraga bhayakroda manmaya mam upashritaha. So again, Krishna in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there he mentions that he should not envy, he should not also most attachment. And then whatever it comes in, he accepts it and progress in the spiritual life. Okay, that is nirvairena aprasangataha brahmacharyena maunena. Brahmacharyena, following rules of brahmacharya. Swadharmena, following the his duty, occupational duties. And offering everything unto the Supreme Lord. Not claiming that he is a proprietor. So, and then yadrchaya upalabdhena. And no need to work very hard to get a livelihood. So here, Kapil Bhagavan says, be simple and satisfied what you have. Yadruchaya upalabdhena, yadruchaya. So there are some sannyasis. So they do not ayachaka vritti. Sannyasis, for example, Madhavendra Puri, he observes the ayachaka vritti. Sannyasi means sometimes he begs and then but Madhavendra Puri does not beg as well. So ayachaka. Without that, whatever comes in, he will subsist on that one. So yadruchaya, without difficulty. And life is also like that. So in a Gruhasthasrama, it is it is called chal. Excuse me. Hare Krishna. In the Grihastha Ashrama, so the simple living is called Shalena. So whatever is comes in, for example, Sudama is the living example. He was in Krishna's pastimes. Krishna's friend Sudama, and Siloncha, who is subsisting himself and his family on the rejected grains from the fields. They will collect those grains and live simple. That is, Idruchaya Upalabdhena Santushto Mitabuk Munihi. They are satisfied and Mitabuk. Eat as much as needed, not too much eating. Munihi, a thoughtful Muni who is progressing in the spiritual path. And Vivikta Saranaha Santo, he is always peaceful and lives in a secluded places. Vivikta Saranaha. And Maitraha Karuna Atmavan, he is friendly with all the living entities, compassionate, Karuna, kindness, Atmavan, self-possessed and self-realized. These are all part of the yoga. Yoga Patel. Yoga, this is called Yoga Pataihi Abhyasana Sadhyamitaha. These are different qualities. But here, by the devotional service, a devotee, he gains all kinds of good qualities without endeavoring for each and everyone separately. And then further, Kapil Bhagavan mentions, by the knowledge, his body and all anything related to the body, everything, they're all temporary. And then separating the matter from the spirit. So this is essential. He says, Sanubhandeji dehesmin akurvan asad agraham jnanena drishtva tatvena prakrutehe purushasya cha. So here, sa anubhandecha dehesmin, anything related to the body, sa anubhandecha, like the nearest family members, any relatives, everything on the house, animals and the vehicles, all the things related to the body. Sanubhandech dehesmin akurvan asadagraham. And this is described here. One's seeing power should be increased through knowledge of spirit and matter, and one should not unnecessarily identify himself with the body, and thus become attracted by the bodily relationships. This body is the temporary thing. This is adruva. Adruva means temporary. So, yad adruvasya dehasya sanubhandasi dhurmatihi. Dhurmatihi. A person who thinks this body is me and he is treated as dhurmatihi, whose mind is not thinking correctly. Dhurmatihi. Dhruvani manyate mohan. He thinks this body and all this house and then everything. Oh, I got a permanent house. It's not a freehold. It is my house. I can do anything like that. And then how long he would do it? Just for a few years, or we do not know, whenever the material nature takes its body, but we will be bereft of the body. So this is Dhruvani Manyate Mohad, by illusion. Gruha Kshetra Vasunicha, Gruha Kshetra Vasunicha, the home and the land, Vasuni, the wealth and everything as well. This is what a person, self-realized person, he would separate the matter from the spirit. Prakritehe purushasya cha, by jnanena drishtva tatvena. And then further Kapil Bhagavan says, he should be far away from such kind of raga and dvesha, and free from the false ego, just like he sees the sun instead of in the sky, instead of looking the sun in the water. If he sees the sun reflection in the water, he sees only different waves, sun is moving and all those things. If he sees the sun in the sky, sun is always situated in the sky. So here he says, Nivritta buddhyavastanu dhuri bhutani adarshanaha upalabhyatmanatmanam chakshushu iva arkam atmadru. Chakshushu iva arkam atmadruk. So one should be situated in the transcendental position beyond the stages of material consciousness, and should be aloof from all other conceptions of life. Thus, realizing freedom from false ego, one should see his own self as he sees the sun in the sky. As he sees the sun in the sky. This philosophy, it is mentioning different, it is explained by Kapil Bhagwan in different angles. Every angle has got a different dimension again. And analogies for us to understand again and again, again and again. And Muktalingam Sadabhasam, Muktalingam Sadabhasam, Asati Pradipadhyate, Sato Bandham Asachakshuhu Sarvanusyotam Advayam. It is again, he says, a liberated soul realizes the absolute personality of Godhead, who is transcendental and who is manifest as a reflection, even in the stage, even in the false ego. And he is the support of the material cause, and he enters into everything. He is absolute, one without a second, and he is the eyes of the illusory energy. एकोऽपि सौ रचितुं जगदण्डकोटिं यच्चक्विरस्ति जगदण्डचयायदन्तहम् अण्डान्तरस्थपरमाणुचयान्तरस्थं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Ekopi asau, even the only one person. And then he creates the universe, Ekopi asau rachitum jagadanda kotim, so many universes. They check, and he enters into everything, all the universes, and also until Paramanu Chayantarastam, Andantarastam, Paramanu Chayantarastam. So that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here, Pradhana Kalasayah Dharma Sangrehe Sirira Yesha Pratipadhya Chetanam. So again, this is by Prith Maharaj, he mentioned. Pradhana Kalasaya Dharma Sangrehe Sirira Yesha Pratipadhya Chetanam. And he enters into all the different kinds of bodies. He enters into different kinds of bodies. And again, based on that matter, so those, for example, the fire exhibits in the wood. In it, there is different kinds of woods, but fire is in all woods. And sometimes one wood may be burnt very nicely, the sandalwood. Another one is, for example, some thorny wood. It does not give that much fragrance. So likewise, but fire is the Lord in such a way. So here, he is absolute, one without a second, and he is one, he is the eyes of the illusory energy. This is about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And again, further, it is described here, the same analogy again. Yata jalasta abhasaha stalastena avadrusyate swabhasena tata suryo jalastena divistitaha. The sun is always in the sky and the reflection in the water. So the presence of the Supreme Lord can be realized just as the sun is realized first as the reflection on the water, and again as the second reflection on the wall of your room, although the sun itself is situated in the sky. So likewise, Lord, he also enters into this universe. In the previous chapter, 26th chapter, whenever he enters into this universe, and all the planetary systems and all the senses and tanmatras and the knowledge and the demigods, they are occupying different parts of the Virat Rupa. But only Virat Rupa is the only one person. Everything, all the matter is taking the shelter of the Supreme Lord. But Lord is not affected by that. So that like the sun is situated in the sky. Okay, different analogies are giving different dimensions. And then here it is described. एवं त्रिवृद्ध अहंकार भूतेन्द्रिय मनोमयैः स्वाभासैः लक्षितो अनेन सदाभासेन सत्यदृक्. The self-realized soul is thus reflected first in the threefold ego and then in the body, senses, and mind. This is the swabhasaihi lakshito anehena sadabhasena satyadruk. This is Bhutendriya Antahakarana Pradhana Jiva Sanjita. The living entity comes with a bag, like which is of the um, Bhinna Prakriti, Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu Hukam Mano Buddhi Revacha Ahankara Iti Yeme Bhinna Prakriti Rastada. This is the eight of the Bhinna Prakriti. Krishna says this is separated energy or external energy of the Lord. So Bhutendriya Antahakarana. This living entity accepts this one. This material body, that's why it is called Bhutendriya Antahakarana Pradhana Jiva Sanjita. That is, it is Jiva Sanjita. And then Atma Tata Pradagrasta Bhagavan Brahma Sanjitaha. The Lord who is always in the heart of all living entities as a witness or super soul, he is Brahma Sanjitaha. He is called Brahma Sanjitaha. Living entity, he reflects himself, he mentions here, first in the threefold ego and then in the body, senses, and mind. This is understood by the self-realized soul, not by the person who is engaging himself in the Bhogeshwari Prasattanam Tayapaputatyetsam, who is experiencing very lavishly enjoying. He cannot understand all this knowledge. And then further it is, Kapil Bhagavad mentions that whenever he is entrapped by these Panchabhutas and everything, it is like he is the doer. He understands that he is the doer. But as soon as he gets this knowledge, then all this illusion will be gone. Both Sukshmendriya Mano Buddhi Manaha Buddhadishu Iha Nidraya Lineshu Asati Yastatra Binidru Nirahankriyaham. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the five material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, and material mind and intelligence, he is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego. He is understood to be that he is freed from the false ego. This is the a living entity here in the previous shloka. He is mentioning he is the Satyadruk. He is the Satyadruk. He is called he understands his constitutional position, even though he has got a material body, experiencing all those things, material enjoyment, material senses, material mind and intelligence. He is understood to be awake because he is Satyadruk. Okay, likewise, and then further he was mentioning as soon as living in okay, let us go and recite this shloka as well. Manyamanas tadatmanam anasto nashtavanam vrusha naste ahankarine drashta nashtavitta ivaturaha. So a person, if he loses all his money in the dream, but as soon as he wakes up, all his wealth and everything is there. But it happened only in the dream. And then he will be, in the dream, he was a bit anxious. Now, as soon as he woke up and he sees everything, okay, now I am not that one. So this is like how he feels. So Manyamanas Tadatmanam, he is thinking that himself, Anasto Nashtavan Vrusha, although he has not lost, Nashtavat, and then he is thinking that he has lost. What is that? Naste Ahankarine Drashta. And falsely thinking, Naste Ahankarine, because of the disappearance of the ego. And Drashta Dasiye, Nastavittaha, one who has lost his fortune. Iva, like Aduraha, distressed. The living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer, but because of the disappearance of the ego during the state of deep sleep, and he falsely takes himself to be lost, like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost. Okay, in the later chapters, it is mentioned like Yata putra chivittacha prudagmatyaha pratiyete api atmatven abhimatad dehadehe purushastadha. So yata putra chivittacha. So family, putra children, vittacha money and everything prudagmatyaha pratiyete. These are all different kinds of assets to the living entity. His body heats himself. Api atmatvena abhimatat. Dehadehe Purushastada. But actually, the Purusha, even he's situated in the body, his wife, his children, everything are he's different, they are separated. And Yata Vispulling Yata Ulmukad Vispulingad Dhomadva Api Swasambhavat Api Atmatpen Abhimatad. It is mentioned Yatagnehe Purush. It is again another analogy is giving just like the fire. Whenever there is a fire, from the fire the smoke comes, the flames will come and sparks will come. It's a number of things, but fire is the essence. So likewise, when the soul is there, it would have got different of those assets, but the fire is the essence. Likewise, Purusha is the main person. Living in it is the main subject. But he is Satyadruk. He would see everything that he is separate from all of it. Okay, likewise, it is in different angle. It has been explained, and then further, एवं प्रत्यवमृष्यासु आत्मानं प्रतिपद्यते स अहंकारस्य द्रव्यस्य यो अवस्थानम् अनुग्रहः. When by nature understanding, by mature understanding, one can realize his individuality. Then the situation he accepts under the false ego becomes manifested to him. Okay, again, this is another statement. So one has to be by mature understanding, one can realize his individuality. Evam pratyam mrushasu atmanam pratipajyate sa ahankarasya dravyasya. Okay, so there he stops, Kapil Bhagwan stops there. Now Dehuti Mata is asking beautiful questions. Okay, that is the first aspect of the topic. And Dehuti Mata asks, so Purusham Prakritihi Brahman na vimuchyati karhechet anyonya apashrayatvacha nityatvadanayoho prabho. So this very beautiful question. My dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is their separation possible? So here, material nature is eternal. And that is again, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as we have gone through. Anadi Vidhi, Ubhav Api. So they are all Anadi. Prakritihi Purushi, Anadi, Ubhav, both are Anadi. So now, how does material nature give release to the spirit soul since one is attracted to the other eternally? How is their separation possible? It is a very intelligent question. And a further question, giving the analogy for that question as well. Yatha gandhasya bhumesha na bhavo vitirekataha apamrasasya cha yatha tata buddhehe parasya cha. See how beautiful she is giving. As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma or of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness. Okay, it is so beautiful. We don't think such kind of questions. How could this question? That's the Prabhupada mentions. It is very intelligent questions. And then further, Devahuti Mata asks, Akattuh karma bandhoyam purushasya yadashriyah guneshu sattu prakrutehe kaivalyam teshu ataha katam kaivalyam teshu ataha katam. So hence, even though he is the passive performer of all activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him and binds him? Okay? And then, Kochit tattva avamarshena. Nivrittam bhaimulbhanam anivritta nimittatvat punaha pratyavatistate. Because as long as the cause exists, this effect is keep on coming in. But how can this cause will be ceased? So even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again. So since its cause has not ceased. Okay, these questions are very, very beautiful. The cause is not ceased. There, what is the cause? Prabhupada describes this one is the desiring to lord it over nature. That is first cause. And another one is the envious towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One, he wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna, lord it over material nature. Another one is envious towards Krishna. Why only Krishna? Why not me? So that is another. These are the two different causes. And here Kapil Bhagavan describes how those can be completely nullified. Living entity will be released from the material nature. He says, Animitta nimittena swadharmena amalatmana tivraya mai bhaktyacha sruta sambrutayacharam. Again, very serious devotional service. And hearing about Krishna Katha, Sruta Sambrutayacharam for a very long time. Mayanina bhavena bhaktim kurvanti edhram matkrute tyakta karmanaha tyakta swajana bandhavaha tyakta swajana matkrute tyakta karmanaha. For my sake, my devotee would leave all of his work aside. For my sake, he will leave all his Tvakta Swajana Bandhavaha, all the relatives as well. For what? My Ananyena Bhavena. He is engaging in my devotional service. My Ananyena Bhavena Bhaktim Kurvanti Dhrudam, very strongly. This is strong devotional service. Tivreda Bhakti Yoga means that one. He does not care about his work and his family members or anything all related to a body. This is Swadharma. This is Animitta Nimittena Swadharmena Amalatmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktyacha Sutta Sambrutayachiram Madashriya Katha Mrushtaha Shranvanti Katayanti Cha Tapanti Vividastapa Naitan Madgata Chetasaha. Though he would leave all his family and everything, when he is Madashriya Katha Mrushtaha, when he is hearing my Katha, Shranvanti Katayanti Cha, when he is hearing, then Tapanti Vividastapa Naita Madgata Chetasaha. Because these tapatriyas does not affect him. Sometimes he is my friend and he says something to me, I am very upset. Such kind of feelings does not exhibit in devotees' life. It's because tapanti vividastapa, naita madgata chetasaha, because he is absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So he does not feel these tapatriyas, the pains related to the body and internally, and pains coming from the surrounding, from the family members, different kinds of living entities, pains from the material calamities. They do not affect him. So here this is called Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Chasra Sambrutaya Chiram. And further, Kapil Bhagavan explaining, Jnanena Drashtvadattena Vairagyena Baliyasa Tapoyuktena Yogena and Tivrena Atma Samadhina. So many times Tivra is coming. It's a very beautiful. This is very serious, very serious. One must be very serious. It is not a casual thing. It does not. Krishna, that's why he says, Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Manusmari Jitsa. We are not showing off. One has to be very serious. Life is every moment it is taking the so it just Stambhastoyam Iva Haradat. In the pond, at the banks of the pond, there is a kusha grass, or within the sometimes in the pond as well. It grows, it drinks all the water. Likewise, the senses, they will take the vital energy of the soul at every moment when they are engaged in the sense gratification. So there four Kumaras, they say that one has to be very cautious about it, where these senses are engaged. Must be engaged in the devotional service. Otherwise, they will extract the vital energy of the soul. So here, that's why it should be very serious. Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmar idyacha maya arpita manobuddhir mam ye vaishyasi asamsayaha. Krishna always asks us to remember him. That is jnanena drushtvatatena. And then tapoyuktena yogena tivrena atma samadhina. So devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. And then what happens? So whenever he is in this material world, automatically as like stambhastoyam ivahradat, his vital energy is be consumed by the senses. Likewise, here, material nature always torments the living entity. Prakritihi Purushasyeha Dahyamanatva Aharnisham, day and night. Tirobhavitri Sanakaihi Agnir Yoni Ivaranihi. So here, influence of the material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. So this is every moment he goes through different problems. Padam padam yad vipadam. Every moment there are dangers. So this is again, that's why when samasitaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punya yasho murarehe bhavam bhudi vaccha padam padam yad vipadam natesham. This is the place, every moment there is a danger. It is not for a natesham, not for the devotees. This is for the people conditioned souls. That's why devotees always take samasudaya padapallava plabam mahatpadam punya yasho murarehe. That is mahatpadam. They will take to the devotional path. Then what happens? Bhavam bhuti vatsa padam. All the material existence becomes just very cold. Even though it is ocean, it turns into small. Bhavam bhuti vatsa padam. Param padam. Padam yad vipadam natesham. Every moment danger. It is not for natesham, not for the devotees. So likewise, very beautifully text explained. So here, by executing the devotional service, by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause fire are themselves consumed by it. It's very beautifully explaining. And then further, that's why one has to relieve all his material enjoyment, sense gratification. And thinking that he is not the Lord, he is that the part and parcel of the Lord, he is eternal servant of the Lord. In such a way, he has to think all the time. Here, bhakta bhoga parityakta dushta doshat vidyashah na ishwarasya asubham datte shve mahimni sitasya cha. Then, when he is feeling that I am dasa of Gopi bhatta padakamalayo, dasa. When you think that, then material nature does not affect you. So it says here, by discovering the faultiness of this, desiring it to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory. He is giving that kind of nature, bhukta bhoga parityakta. So he is living that kind of conception. Now he is a servant of the Lord. Now material nature does not affect on him. So this is Jnana Vairagyaktena Bhakti Ktena Chatmana Paripasthiti Udasinam Prakritim Cha Hatavodhyasam. Prakriti does not disturb him. Prakriti does not disturb him. It does not show its influence on the devotee. And he further, Kapil Bhagwan describes that the same thing, like Yata Hya Priti Buddhasya Praswapo Bahu Anardhabrut Saiva Priti Buddhasya Navai Mohai Kalpate. It's very beautiful again. So in this same statements repeated. In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered and one sees many inauspicious things, but when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder him. So there are two words is used. One is the Pratibuddhasya and Apratibuddhasya, Pratibuddhasya. Pratibuddhasya is the one who is awake, who has understood that he is living in. Apratibuddhasya means opposite, one who is sleeping. So here Pratibuddhasya is a devotee. Pratibuddha vastuhu. Okay, this is a devotional service. Okay. And further, Kapil Bhagavan further is explaining, this is all mostly philosophy, but it is when we concentrate on this one, why different angles, one can understand why we have to detach from the matter and why we have to engage in the devotional service. And evam vidita tattvasya prakriti mai manasam injato napakurita atmaramasya karihechet. So here, the influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the absolute, and his mind is fixed on the supreme personality of Godhead. That's why Material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul. He is always Atma Ramasya Karhichit. At any time, material nature does not act upon him. Though it outside, everyone like everyone else, he is also working, he is also doing many other things, but his mind is fixed on Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows the absolute. So Prakriti Hatavodisam, Prakriti does not show its influence on that devotee. So likewise, how do he gain that kind of position? So here he says, Yadaiva Madhyatmarataha Kalena Bahujanmana, for so many lifetimes. For Kalena Bahujanmana. And Sarvatra Jata Vairagya Abrahma Bhunan Munihi. And he is detached from everything, inclusive of the topmost planet of Brahma. It happens after so many lifetimes. Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapajyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sujarlabaha. Such kind of Mahatmas are very rare. So having this Vairagya, Sarvatra Jata Vairagya, every detachment from everything, inclusive of all top Brahmaloka down to the Pataloka, everything is detached. That happens after so many lifetimes. Bahujanma vipakvena samyak yoga samadhina drishtam yatante yatayaha sunyagareshu yatpadam. It happens after so many lifetimes. And that's why we see very rare people. Manushyanam sahasreshu kashid yatati siddhaye yatitamapi siddhanam kashid mam veti tatvataha. Very few people understand Krishna. Even though so many people try. That's why at the end they come to the conclusion that Bahunam Janmanam Ante, at the end, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. When they understand Vasudeva Sarvamiti, then they chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is, they have achieved all those things already. That's why they're engaging in the chanting. But chanting, sometimes one may start in the 5 years old or few years old, 10 years or 20 years, or sometimes in the 80 years old. By the time he has completed all these things. Kalena Bahujanmana. This is Ahobata Sopacho Adhogaryam. Yajjihvagre Vattate Namatubhyam. Yajjihvagre. Whoever is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Yajjihvagre Vattate Namatubhyam. Te pustapaste juhuhu sasnurarya brahmanucho nama grunantiyete. They have performed all those sacrifices, yajnas and charities, and studying of Vedas and everything. That's why he is chanting Yajjihvagre Vattate Namatubhyam. Devhuti Mata says in her prayers to Kapil Bhagwan at the end, before Kapil Bhagwan leaves home, and then later on Devhuti Mata engages herself in the yoga. Okay, so that is how devotee here, when a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in Krishna consciousness. This is taseva hetoho praiteto kovido na labhyate yadbrahmatam uparyadaha talabhyate dukkvad anyatah sukam kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. He is called Kavi. Taseva hetoho praiteto kovidaha, who is a learned person. And this pains and pleasures automatically come and go, but he does not endeavor for anything which is within the 14 planet system. He is always endeavor for Krishna consciousness. He is Kovida. So this is when a person engages in the devotional service, that is self-realization. So likewise, what happens by the self-realization? Here is concluding verses like mentions. He will attain the abode of the Lord. At the end of this body, he will attain, and then he does not come back. So mad bhaktaha pratibuddhaddo mad prasadena bhuyasa nishresam swasamsthanam kaivalyakyam madashriyam. Kaivalyakyam madashriyam. Prapnotiha anjisa dhiraha swadhusha chinna samsayaha yadgatva nanivatteta yogi lingad vinagami. See, once he goes, Kaivalyakyam madashriyam, then your year yadgatva nanivatteta, he does not come back. So he says, my devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited causeless mercy, and thus When freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the supreme, ultimate perfection goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back. This is again, there is a beautiful shloka again, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Can anyone say this what shloka it is? 15.7, Bhagavad Gita 15.7. Anyone say this? The devotees? Is that which shloka is the sixth one? Can anyone recite this shloka?
Prabhuji,
Hare
may I?
Krishna.
I can, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please.
न तद्भासयते सूर्यो न शशङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धामं परमं मम.
Very
Hare
good.
Krishna.
Would you like to read the translation as well, Mataji?
The supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so that one here, Kapil Bhagavan is also mentioning that after giving a present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back. Within the spiritual world, they're all bliss and happiness. Devotees, they have got individual airplanes along with their concerts. They're singing the glories of the Lord. वैमानिकाः सललना चरितानि शश्वत् गायन्ति यत्र समलक्षपनानि भत्तुः अन्तर्जले अनुविकसत् मधुमाधवीनां गन्धेन कण्डितधियोऽपि अनिलं क्षिपन्तः. So beautifully they are Vaimanikaha Salalana Charitani Shashvat Gayanti Yatra Samalakshapani Bhattuhu. They're glorifying the pastimes of the Lord along with their concerts going in those airplanes. This is again Yat Sankulam Haripadanityamata Društaihi Vaidurya Marakata Mayahi Vimanayahi. Those airplanes are made with lapis lazuli, there's gold and emeralds, so beautiful things. And it is filled with so many beautiful women as well. Yesham Bruhat Karitataha Smita Shobhimukyaha Krishnatmanam Naraja Adituhu Smayadhyaihi. But devotees, they're not attracted by the passionate towards the beautiful woman. Even they are Yesham Brutkata Smita Shobha Mukyaihi. They are always giving faces are with Smita Shobhita Mukyaihi. So beautiful women are there. But devotees, Krishna Atmanam. This is about Vaikuntha description, but here it is Maitreya or Brahma is saying Krishna Atmanam. Naraja, there is no passion. Adhu Usmayadhyaihi. Even though they are beautiful, they are not agitated by that beauty in that Vaikuntha abode. Okay, and again there are many of those things. Shri Rupini Konayati Charanaravindam Leelam Budena Harisadhmani Mukta Dhosha. There are Mukta Dhosha. There are no faults at the goddess of fortune. They are always engaging in the one hand is the lotus flowers. There is Sri Rupini Konayati Charanaravindam Leelambujena Harisadhmani Mukta Dosha Samlakshate Spatika Kudhi Upeta Hemni Samadjativa Yadanugrahani Anyatnaha Yadanugrahani to receive the mercy of the Lord. Even in the Vaikuntha plants, they are trying to they appear like that they are cleaning the walls. There is no dust at all. They are trying to clean those walls. Samadjativa Yadanugrahani Anyayatnaha. They wanted to convince them somewhere that they want to receive the favor of the Lord. Okay. So beautiful of these Vaikuntha planets. The description itself, it gives so much of pleasure to the heart. Okay, that is just here. Bhagavan Shabda Gocharaha. Yatra Chadhyapamanasthe Bhagavan Shabda Gocharaha. Sattvam Vishtabhivirjam Swanamno Grudayandushaha. The Lord give pleasure to the devotees. As we here discuss, and the sound itself, it is so pleasing. In reality, if we go nearer to the Lord, there is much, much pleasure. This is Manishdan Anubhavoyam Mamaloka Avalokanam Yad Bhuputya Rahasi Chakadha Paramam Tapaha. Lord says this, Manishdan Anubhavoyam Mamaloka Avalokanam. One has to come and enjoy along with me in all these opulences in my abode. Varam Vare Bhadram Te Varesham Abhivanchitam Brahman Shreya Parishramah Pumsam Maddarshanavadihi. After one's complete tapasya, austerities and penances, devotional service, everything, what is the best thing to desire is Maddarshanavadihi. Lord says to Brahma, and then you ask what is the benediction. But also Lord only gives the clue that this is the topmost thing that you can ask. Maddarshana avadihi, to come and see me. Okay, so beautiful. Okay, and then further, this is everything possible through the devotional service. And here Kapil Bhagavan finally he concludes this chapter. That's why he should be completely free from the material entanglements, though well in the perfect. So here, yada na yogo pachita sucheto maya siddhasya visajyatengam ananyahetushu atame gatisyan achantik yatra na mrityuhasaham. Achantik yatra na mrityuhasaha. So here says, when a perfect yogi, attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of the mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy. His progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. The power of death cannot overcome him. So this is the power of glories of devotional service as well in another way. We have already seen in the 25th chapter the glories of devotional service. And here again, Kapil Bhagavan is stressing that the mrityu cannot. That's why Kshemaya Padamulam me Pravyanti Akuto Bhayam Jnana Vairagyuktena Bhakti Yogena Yoginaha Kshemaya Padamulam me Pravyanti Akuto Bhayam. This is Akuto Bhayam. He enters into the mood. There is no fear at all. Nanyatra mad bhagavataha pradhana purusheshwarat. There is none anyatraha. Atmanaha sarvabhutanam bhayam tevram na nivattate. There is nothing else can give fearlessness to a person except only Krishna. Except Krishna's shelter. Apart from that, there is no other thing which can make the person to free from the fear. Only the devotional service unto Krishna makes one as a fearless about death or anything else. Pravishanti akuto bhayam. Okay, likewise, Kapil Bhagavan concluding this 27th chapter of third canto, understanding the material nature. Okay, I stopped there. So I took few minutes more. And thank you, dear devotees, for kindly hearing. So I request, dear devotees, if you have got any questions or any comments, any reflections, kindly ask, kindly reflect, or kindly comment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you for the wonderful class as always. Prabhuji, I wanted to go back to text 25, the purport.
What is that?
25, the purport. And the last paragraph where it says, as long as a conditioned soul does not have this knowledge, he wants to be the enjoyer of everything. He wants to become a humanitarian or philanthropist to open hospitals and schools for his fellow human beings. Is it not? I can understand the gist of it in that you have to be in Krishna consciousness. Schools, I can understand for schools, they have to teach Krishna consciousness that schools today do not teach that. There's more end goal is material well-being and material benefit. But for hospitals, do we all, in whatever way they're being open, do we not all need it? the hospitals, and you really, maybe you have to be on a Vaikuntha planet to not require the facilities of a hospital, but
Yeah.
whether it's done in a kind of philanthropic or humanitarian way, what is the argument that should there not be a need for hospital? Because even as a devotee, you will need to go. One will need to go to a hospital, use the facilities. Does that person need to, who is opening it, does that mean to be all need to be Krishna conscious to be opening that? Because in
It's
an
a
ideal situation, like I said, there will be no need for hospitals. The real education and the real health benefit is Krishna consciousness. So I just wanted to reconcile that, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. It's a very beautiful question, Mataji. And Prabhupada, he mentions some of the impersonalists. So they are Yanya Ravindakra Vimukta Maninaha, Payashta Bhavad Abhidda Buddhayaha, Rushya Krucherena Param Padam Tataha, Patantyadaha, Anadruta Yushmadangarayaha. So there, Prabhupada describes a impersonalist. He makes mistakes or offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord. Even though he performed so many of austerities and penances, again he fell down from his position, patantyadaha, and then come down back to this material world, material pool, and then engage himself in the opening hospitals and schools and fellow human beings. So all this stuff he carries out because he has not engaged himself in the devotional service. So, and this is one side of the impersonalist. And conditioned soul, whenever he is in the mode of goodness, okay, I want to do good for everyone, but he does not engage himself in the devotional service. So again, the mode of goodness also, it binds him to this material world. And then he wants to become humanitarian philanthropist and open hospitals. So again, just why we need hospitals? Sometimes why? Because of disease. Why diseases are coming? Because everything is of the food what we consume. Based on that, the vikaras, etat kshetram samasena savikara buddhapuratam, the changes happens into the body. If we take the ayu sattva bhalarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha, रस्याः सिद्धाः स्थिराहृज्या aharaha satvika priyaha. If we take those aharaha satvika priyaha, then one would not go to diseases. So that is one thing. And then of course, by accidents and all those things, different kinds of this happens by the karma. It is Vugra karmani. It is not needed, but still people addicted or become customer for those facilities and think that it is essential. But in actuality, if we, for example, in India, in a village is self-sustained place. They do not need to go. For example, myself, in my childhood, until I was 15 years old, I have not crossed in my village very as long as to go to the relatives' home to stay for holidays and come back. That is also by walk. It was the real life, and everything was harmonious. It was not needed to go to the hospital at any point of time unless we were doing something which is out of our duties. I have practically experienced it, and later on, because people's food habits gradually changed and using different kind of accidents and different diseases, heart attacks. We never heard about heart attacks during 40 years ago. I never heard those things. Very occasionally I used to hear, but not frequently. Here many people liver problems, that problem. These are because everything, the food, it is within the food itself. And the food, whatever is being sold in the factories and supermarkets, it is again contaminated. It is like based on the business. In the villages, it is self-produced. They have got own cows. We used to have one cow. We used to get our own milk, and we used to go outside and get the grass and then feed the cow with love, and then we take the milk and then we eat it. We drink it, and then from that ghee, milk, yogurt, and the buttermilk, everything comes from that. And then cow dung, we use it to sprinkle the cow dung with the water, mix it, and then sprinkle in front of the home. House and the home looks very beautiful on top of it. And again, we capture this cow urine, and then you sprinkle in the home for to just make the pesticides out. It's so auspicious. In another country, somewhere in South Africa, in Africa, there whenever the cow is doing the urine, a child is going and taking the bath, and that one straight away. He doesn't need tap also. He doesn't need to even bucket as well. There was one person is making the video. That is the situation of the Vedic civilizations. There was no hospitals required because the food what we consume, it changes our body. आयुः सत्त्व बलारोग्य आयुः सत्त्व बल आरोग्य सुख प्रीति विवर्धनाः. It is very pleasing, but people are consuming the spicy foods and so many of other things, what to speak of, and the food in the mode of passion and ignorance. They will give the pains and they go to the hospitals. And what to speak of accidents, it is they are traveling too much distance.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, too much of chemicals used in the food production, but it looks like one demands the need for another. So because you consume so much bad stuff, then we need the hospitals. So, and yes, it was, the life then was kind of nice and wholesome. Production was just done at home, small farming communities, and now fertilizers are used for food production. So maybe even those are kind of are chemically induced. So I can understand that. It was just this particular thing about hospitals, like all of us need them or are going to need them at some stage in our lives. So I wondered, does that make somebody philanthropist, humanitarian, or is it or need to be there? So thank you, Prabhuji. I think you answered that really well. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Any other questions, dear devotees? Sita Sundari Mataji. Gayatri Mataji, Jay Mataji, Lalita Mataji, and Jahanakanya Mataji. Any questions or any comments?
Hare Krishna. No, it was just, I totally relate to what Pati Mataji said, you said, and Pati Mataji's questions. Because I've got a living example at home. I've got a 90-year-old mother-in-law, and my mother is 86. Both of them, they're used to eating sattvic food. No more of all this pasta and pizzas, and also fresh food, more to the point. It's fresh, they wouldn't eat anything cooked the previous day so I can understand. And my mother-in-law, being even 90, she's got her memory intact. She's hardly been to the hospital. No visits, nothing, she's in a better health more than I am. So I can totally understand what you were saying, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Very beautiful, Mataji. So similarly, in my village, one of very old woman, 110 years, she has been reading Bhagavad Gita every day, not going outside of the village unnecessarily, unless they got a family occasion only. Just 110 is perfectly well. So that was living in a very healthy environment. Hare Krishna. Lalita Mataji wanted to mention?
Oh, Prabhuji. So beautiful explained, Prabhuji. So 110 years is great, Prabhuji.
Yes, every day Bhagavad Gita, all of the life.
Oh, very nice, Prabhuji. Beautiful explained, Prabhuji, this section.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you for today's session, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Naina Mataji, what is?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, I echo what the Matajis have said. You explained the whole chapter so very well, so thoroughly. And sometimes I miss the session. So I get a chance to understand. Your explanation is so thorough, and it's very easy to understand. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gayatri Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, I had no questions, Prabhuji, but I was also thinking the same thing as Jai Mataji, because my grandparents were very healthy, and especially grandmoms were very healthy. But yes, nowadays we don't see that anymore. So yes, Prabhuji, the food and everything, if we had lived like what Srila Prabhupada wants us to live, then we would be in much better health for sure. And everything, the whole class session was very beautiful, Prabhuji. Very nicely explained. Devahuti Mataji's questions and answers, and how devotional service is so important. And that's all, Prabhuji. Very beautifully explained. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, any other questions, dear devotees? Ramlala Prabhuji, Sita Sundari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nice class as all devotees explained. Yeah, in fact, when you explain, we go back to our like childhood, but still we didn't see anything. But I can give an example, like from my family, my parents-in-law, my father-in-law left his body on his 100 years. So, but with full consciousness, he used to go everywhere, like he was a headmaster of that area, and everybody respected him. And as he was elder, uh, that is why he always go to every house, every home, and asked how is going on every day. So just 4 days before, he mentioned that you will find me 4 days more. And my husband supposed to go like at the like he left his body on Monday, and my husband supposed to go on Friday. So, and he mentioned that by his name, that he will not, I will not meet him anymore. So, and everybody was telling, and my sister-in-law was telling that now is like rainy season, it will be very difficult, how we will manage. And my father-in-law told that my time came, I have to leave. So what you will do, that is your part, it's not my part, my concern. So he was very straightforward. So what you will do, that is your part, I don't I am not like obliged to stay for that. And on the day when he left his body, he said to everyone, he told that it's my last day, I will not come anymore to visit you. So everybody was shocked, what you are telling like that. And just before leaving his body, he went to the toilet, he took shower, and he asked to to eat. His desire was to eat a mango. So my mother-in-law gave prasadam, and he told that give me water. And then everybody understood. By this time, everybody started to sing Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and he left his body. So how it was, and he had no kind of disease. He was very not healthy, in that sense. He was not fat, but he was very healthy. He ate very little, not too much, but like that. So, and my mother-in-law, she is 90 up, and still now with her body she cannot, it's very difficult, but she takes bath in the morning, early in the morning. She does everything, Gita, she reads Gita, Bhagavad, and she will do Tulsi Parikrama. With her age, it's very difficult, very difficult. She is very small, like in height. So but that is what I am telling, that of course there is impact of food and atmosphere, environment, everything. Before it was very like pure. Nowadays, and pure soul, of course. Otherwise, how they will can remember? When we call to him, to her, she asked me, do you do chanting and do you read this Bhagavatam? And with his son, with my husband, that nothing to compare with Kapila Muni and Devahuti Mata. But still, I think that how fortunate his son and how fortunate mother. My mother-in-law, she never asks about some materials thing. She always asks something to his son. She will ask that I read this one, read this chapter. This chapter is very nice. And what is she will ask question to his son. So really, it's blessings, I think. Not I think, but definitely. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for giving opportunity to share. It was coming on my mind by hearing your interpretation, explanation. Thank you. Thank you, all devotees.
Thank you, Mataji. It's so beautiful reflections.
That is so beautiful, yes, Jay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we shall conclude our session for tonight. Okay, thank you so much.
Shall we all say 3 Hari Bols to Prabhuji, please? Hari Bol.
Hari
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 Bol.
Bol, Hari
Bol.
Bol, Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hari Bol to all the devotees and Hari Bol to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha
Asintu
Kripa
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Vaishnav Vrind ki jai.
Jai.
Ananda Rasasi
Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagwatam ki jai.
Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Amogha Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, devotees.